So, hello guys and welcome back to another episode of the Coaching Corner with me, Pascal Flor, and on the other end I am joined this time by Jess and also by Harry. So this time we wanted to talk a little bit about our disruptive periods in our lives and how that affects us as coaches in our private life as well, of course, but that always ties in when you're self-employed anyway. But before we do that, as always, I want to get a little bit of an update of what has been going on. Let's start off with Jess, because then we can directly transition over to the topic today when we are then going over to Harry. All right?
Yes, ladies first. Hello. So I'm doing great. This morning is actually my first refeed day over like a 4 days back-to-back refeed, which is very exciting. I am 14 weeks out this week. So, in 4 weeks, it's
Nice.
going to be single digit numbers. So I'm going to get a little bit nervous. But yeah, so far I had a plateau at 60 kilos. And now that I'm breaking under 60 kilos, it's actually going down pretty fast and I'm feeling better. I had a huge nervous breakdown last week when I did my check-in with Steve, but he found the words, and that's why it's so valuable to have a coach in prep, especially when you're a coach yourself, because you can, give people directions and soothe them, but when it comes to yourself, you just don't have that objective perspective, so it's really complicated. But yeah, mental health was down. I was just struggling a little, but it's better today. And I think the carbs and being less flat maybe, and I'm also deloading. So everything combined is supposed to reduce the stress. So hopefully in a few days, I'll have really good update pictures. And yeah, 14 weeks is still a long way to go. It's like long and short both. It's really weird. Like time in prep passes by very differently than than when it's a normal period of your life. But yeah, 14 weeks, and yeah, it's a long time, and we got this.
Very good to hear that you are now feeling better and that you had a little bit of a breakdown here the last week, but Steve was actually handling the situation like a proper coach should. And what I'm curious to hear is, where did you start this time the prep from? It was much lower from a body weight perspective than the last prep, right?
Yeah, last prep, my prep in 2019, I started at nearly 70 kilos, and this prep, I started in January. I think I was 64 kilos average. So that's 6 less kilos. So that's huge on my frame.
And also better body composition.
Oh, it's night and day, completely different, leaner, more muscle mass for sure. You can tell from the pictures that, yeah, it's much more defined. My waist is smaller. I carry less body fat. I have more glutes, more quads, more delts. Yeah, it's it's completely different, which is good because it means that over the couple of years, I've made a lot of progress. So it's really positive.
What shows are you aiming for, Jess? You're not going to Dubai yet now after all, right?
The thing with Dubai, so I'm doing the French WNBF qualifier, which is September 17th. That's a week after the Dubai show. And I think if I do the Dubai show, it means I have to travel there and then I have to rush back home to do my other peak week. So that would be 2 peak weeks in a row with a lot of traveling, because Dubai is like a 6 hours flight from here. I think it's just going to be too stressful. So my first show is going to be the French qualifier, which is mid-September. And then if I don't qualify for Worlds, I'll just keep rolling with the shows. And I really want to do the WNBF UK one in Birmingham. It's on Halloween, 31st of October. It's going to be a great show. And if I qualify before for Worlds, I probably won't be able to compete, because once you qualify, I don't think you're able to compete somewhere else. But
really?
I think so. But
I wasn't aware of that the WMBF has that as a rule.
Yeah, I don't remember where I read it or if someone told me. But yeah, I think once you qualify, it's just to give more people, I guess, chances to qualify as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I'll still be going just to cheer people, because I know a lot of people are going to be competing there, and it's always a great opportunity to travel.
Yeah, I will be coming as well, because so many people want to compete at that show as well, and it's going to be a big party.
Yeah, and it's on Halloween, which is exciting.
Yeah. Is Halloween in the UK? Then there's pretty much no celebration of any kind for Halloween if you're not 12 years old.
It's crazy how it changed, though, because when I was young, Halloween was nothing, or not really a thing in Germany. And now the kids are out on the streets as well and collecting some candy and stuff like that. And I just knew Halloween from watching Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network when I was young. Didn't understand a single word of what they said on English because I was too young, but of course it was still cool to watch. And I was always like envying the Americans for something like Halloween. But now, I mean, I don't know, in UK, is it not like that now?
It's something that only like kids aged between like 3 and 10 get involved in, and then adults.
And then when you're older again, because the kid inside you comes out and you don't give a fuck any longer and you just go out.
I just go full cosplay down my street on Halloween. Yeah. Full Mandalorian gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go as Baby Yoda.
Yeah, no, actually, you should do something like that when you have like a young son or so, or a young kid. Anyway, you go as Mandalorian, and then Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Grogu.
Yeah. No, but how are things on your end, Harry?
Things have been. Disruptive is the word I'd use, but I feel like it's probably too strong of a word at the same time. So obviously the gym's reopened, and my offline PT business has been very busy, which is great. And I've unfortunately had a close family member pass away as well in the last couple of weeks, which has meant I've had to prioritize being with family and doing family stuff to try and help with that thing. And then the puppy that we obviously paid for months ago, we were due to pick that up a couple of weeks ago. So I've had all of like these things basically happening in a very short space of time. So the main thing I've had to figure out is how to be a good puppy parent, how to be a good family member, and how to be a good trainee and coach all at the same time as well. And I feel like I have managed it. I'm sure I'll have to ask my clients.
Don't forget about Hannah.
Oh, who?
Hannah.
Yeah.
Hannah Montana.
So basically,
your wife, your girlfriend.
We've been it's been challenging is not the right word. Just it's probably similar, but not as hard as having a kid, because obviously very sleep deprived because you're like dealing with the family stuff, but did involve traveling throughout the whole night and actually missing entire night's sleep. And then obviously puppy, which is, I'm sure you know, like they cry and wake you up at night and stuff like that. So I've been very sleep deprived right in the middle of my training block, and the adaptations I've made we can talk about in the actual in our actual podcast, the question that we're going to talk about. But generally, I'm good. I'm healthy. I'm as happy as I can be given my situation, and I'm pretty confident with how I've handled everything. And I don't have anything massively interesting going on. I've got no prep, nothing like that. My own training is so I did a mini cut, and then I did a mini cut for the first block. I call it a mini cut, but it wasn't really a mini cut. It was like a low stress but quite a high rate of weight loss diet. But I was only able to do that for a short period of time because obviously we've had like lockdown and stuff where I wasn't dieting. And then I followed that up with a block where I just reduced the target rate of weight loss by half. So instead of aiming for like 800 grams to a kilo loss a week, I'm now aiming for like 300, 400 grams loss a week. So it's quite an easy diet to stick to. I don't feel any stresses at all. In fact, all of the lifestyle disruption has made the diet easier, if anything, because it's resulted in me missing meals and stuff and then making it up with like a protein shake or something like that, as opposed to like, you know, like when you've ever tried to diet, like when you don't have anything going on, you basically just sit in front of the fridge, like,
man, yeah,
just like waiting for your next meal, don't you? So from that perspective, things are all good. Training has been brilliant. I'm really enjoying it. Like I still haven't got to the point where I'm taking the gym for granted. Every time I go to the gym, I still feel this like wash of gratitude and being able to go there. And as well, like obviously it's can be stressful looking after an infant, whether that's canine infant or human infant. So the gym now I understand my clients when they say that the gym and their workout time is like their own precious time, and they really appreciate it because I feel like the same thing. It's like, it's the time where I can actually just focus on myself and don't have to be watching a canine, making sure it doesn't shit on the floor and stuff like that. So I'm really enjoying training. It feels very productive. I've taken a real stimulus focused approach to this block, inspired a little by the latest Renaissance periodization book. Like I've always been someone who, at least in recent years, prioritizes, like I always tell clients, like you're chasing a sensation, you're not chasing a rep number. And I've definitely kind of really run away with that in these last couple of training blocks. I'm really, really putting quality. I always thought I did, but never to this level, putting quality above all else. So I would honestly say that 90%, if not 100% of the sets I've done recently have been probably of the most productive sets I've ever done in my life when it comes to my training. So I'm really happy with training.
Can you give a little bit of an example of how you go about it? So you go, let's say you have like an exercise. You go in there, you have a specific rep range, but it's not that you are saying, okay, last week I did 15 repetitions and this week I have to do 16 or so, but you just go into the set. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll take a lat pull down, for example. So I'll look at my history from the last week, and then I would have had, so say I did 4 sets of pull downs the previous week, and then I would have rated them for how good I felt the stimulus was, and then how good the pump was. And then the day after, I also rate like the soreness. And then I'll look at that, and then I'll look at it and I'll be like, so it looked like last week was really, really productive. So I don't necessarily want to change too much from that. So what I'll do here is I'll try and push for more performance, but then I'll have my own clear criteria of what a good quality rep is. You know how like on a lat pull down, for example, it'd be like full stretch and extension, and then come down, nice big contraction, just to hold it for long enough that I can feel the muscle squeeze. And then I have that criteria. And then basically I think, like, provided I work within the same criteria, let's see if I can beat performance. And then every set I have like in my rest periods, I'm not really messing around. I'm considering how to improve on the prior set. And I know it sounds silly, and it's something that we all think that we do, but I've never put it like the number one priority of a training session before. So literally I'll do set 1. And then when it comes to set 2, I'm like, how can I make this a better set than the previous set? And then set 3, exactly the same. And I'm finding that I am still increasing performance every single week, even though I'm doing all this stuff. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And I'm finding that I've had the best pumps I've ever had in my training career, and I'm actually in a calorie deficit, which is
just interesting.
Yeah,
absolutely. And now talking about, or going back to the topic that we wanted to touch on, and that is like kind of overall stress, disruptive lifestyle, in conjunction to your training and nutritional endeavors. So still, you're making great progress. You said that you are in a caloric deficit, but it's not really disruptive to the rest of your life, right? Mm-hmm. How do you go about it? What did you do here? How did you approach things? Because right now things are so stressful, but it seems like you are less stressed than maybe before that.
I wouldn't use stressful in the emotive sense of the word. I just use stressful in, there's just changes in the lifestyle. So I know that some people experience stress really acutely and really emotionally. We all do at different times. And I would definitely say, despite what's gone on with the stuff I've said, I don't feel massively emotionally stressed. I just feel more like physically stressed, as in, like you feel like you haven't got enough time to do all the things you need to do and stuff like that. So all I've been doing is I reduced my training volume from 5 sessions a week to 4 sessions a week, because I felt like I wanted to set myself up to win. And there was no point trying to, because that's one thing I do with clients quite often as well. I'm quite happy to just reduce the training days if we need to, because sometimes trying to get that 5th session done creates so much more stress than the actual stress that people are experiencing in their lifestyle, especially if you're on a prep and you can feel like you're failing because you're not getting that extra session done and stuff like that. So all I did was take the 5th session, which was an arms and shoulders session. So like my split at the moment is quads, it's push, quads, pull, hamstrings, arms and shoulders, because I wanted to prioritize arms and shoulders. And then I know that I'm really motivated to do that session as well. So all I did was look at the movements I'm doing in that session and just thought, how can I split this somewhat amongst the rest of the week without it making the sessions too long? So that's what I did. I just added a couple of extra sets to some of the other stuff, and I didn't actually take any of the extra movement patterns, because that last arms and shoulder session was basically just repeating exercises from earlier on in the week. So it didn't feel massively like I was losing out on much to not have that session. And then when it comes to nutrition, I had a really good nutrition routine in place anyway before the disruption and stuff happened. So I've done my best to still adhere to that. So same breakfast, the same, like I said, like the kind of prepped meals and stuff like that. They've made it a lot easier, although I'm having less of them. And then dinners have just been, the only thing that's really been disrupted is dinners are happening a lot later than they would normally happen, but they're still happening. And I'm doing a lot of buying convenience food, but like when you go to a supermarket and they have like the meal deals, all I'm doing is I'm shopping entirely for macros and satiety. I'm not worrying too much about nutrient quality. So that involves usually having some kind of ready prepared sandwich that has about 600 calories. And then I'll find the biggest and cheapest salad as well, and then just go with that. So that's been what my on the go meal has been. And if anything, I'm just a little bit too busy to stress massively about hunger, because I haven't got time to deal with it. Like when you're really busy and you get hungry, it's like you have to ignore it because of the other stuff that you're doing. So that's basically been happening. If I didn't have 12-hour days, 3 days a week, it would be I think hunger would be a problem. But because I have those days, it's not. So yeah.
So to me, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you just had to prioritize things, switch your schedule around a little bit, because in the past it was like that you've been training 5 days a week. Was it 5 days? Mm-hmm. Now you switch it to 4 days. So you made room there for having one additional day to commit to other things. And then also, I would very much assume that before that, you always had a little bit hairy time when you've been playing a little bit of video games. And I would assume that this is now gone as well. So you needed to actually make room for that as well, right?
Yeah, I probably had about an hour or two of, maybe an hour or 2 hours maximum of what I'd call like free time each day. Like that. And yeah, that's just totally gone. But I was prepared. I had mentally prepared myself to lose that anyway, because I knew that it was a luxury for me to have had that time in the first place. So yeah, it wasn't like I'm not dealing with any not withdrawals. And what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not missing it because I had mentally prepared myself to lose it, if that makes sense.
I think that's a great point, which we then can go over to Jess, because I know that now that you are in a contest prep, and I also know that there's so many things that you are interested in, and the day has not enough hours for you. How do you structure things, and how do you prioritize things? Because I know it sometimes is overwhelming and quite hard to really prioritize if there are so many things that interest you.
I am terrible at organization and prioritizing everything. Did we lose Harry?
Yeah, but I think he did it intentionally.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm really bad. I was formally diagnosed with ADHD a couple of weeks ago, maybe a little bit more now. So I have started on my meds, which is Ritalin, which is supposed to make me more focused, and it's supposed to make it easier for me. But I haven't quite reached the amount that makes me actually, organized and better at focusing on things that I'm doing. So it's still very challenging. So my days are just waking up, doing cardio first thing in the morning, so I get a lot of steps done, and I try to be productive by doing cardio and watching my client check-ins, so I can actually take notes and then record my check-ins. I'll have some caffeine, Monster, not caffeine, just Monster in the morning, and I'm never usually hungry for the first 5 hours of the day, so I'll do a fast, but that's pretty much it's not like on purpose, but it's just how it happens for me. Yeah. And that saves me a bit of calories, because my calories are quite low right now. Unfortunately, I have to diet on very low calories for my body weight. And then I just do my courses. I do client work as much as I can. That's my priority. If I get really stressed, overwhelmed throughout the day, I know that if I get my client's work done, at least I'm okay, and I can go to bed thinking like, okay, I'm at peace with myself, because I know that I've done the most important thing for me today. And then I just add the extra, which are like financial courses and everything else that I want to do. And at night, really important for me, it's the wind down period. So I have my dinner, and then I do some breath work, meditation, I read, and that's really important for me. And even if it means that I have to go to bed later, I'm okay with it, because that's just my priority right now. And that's really important for me to de-stress at night, so then I can go to bed and feel less stressed. But yeah, it's a challenge. And yeah, my priority will always be my client. So as long as I do my client work, I'm happy to go to bed at night, having not done anything else. But I push myself, and I really want to do more, but I know that I have to deal with, getting used to the medication and finding out the right dosage for now. So it's a work in progress, but hopefully I can get some psychotherapy around that by someone who is actually capable of dealing with people with ADHD. So I can get maybe help with organizing myself and be more productive. But yeah, I cut myself a lot of slack because I just realized that pushing yourself and having that low self-esteem for not accomplishing things you want to be doing, it's just a very dark spiral, and it doesn't end up really, really great for my mental health. So I prioritize client work and then my mental health, and moving forward, I'm just going to have better habits in place, and it's all about finding what works for me. So it's still a work in process, but it's much better now.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
I think at least that's the case for me. I have the impression that due to, of course, something like social media, the internet, and what it is that you're always seeing, we put so much more pressure on ourselves. And I have the feeling that I myself feel so much pressure than 10, 20 years ago when I grew up, simply because I'm just constantly online. And there's just a wealth of information that interests you, and you're completely bombarded by it, also by ads, right? Constantly you get some impressions, and your brain is constantly working on putting or separating those kind of impressions for you, right? And it can be so overwhelming, especially when you then see people being super successful. You have the feeling that you also constantly need to do something in order to move forward, right? Whereas we kind of also know that it may be much more beneficial to just like have very dedicated work hours, and then besides that, calm down, do something for yourself, or maybe have more breaks or so. But I find it, for myself at least, quite overwhelming at times, because there's so many things that I want to do, and then you dabble slightly into that. And because you're then starting so many things, you actually never get to somewhere, and you actually never achieve or accomplish something, but you always have the feeling, like a total FOMO feeling, right? That you always have to do something, and that then spirals down to you kind of, I don't want to use the term, but feeling burned out, because you never get anywhere, but you feel like you're constantly doing something. And I have, same as you, Jess, I have a very, very hard, at least since like a couple of months, very hard time to organize myself in certain areas. And that, of course, then makes me a little bit angry about myself, that I'm not capable of organizing things. And I have the feeling that I'm just standing still, and I want to move forward. And then you're putting even more effort into something, or even more time into something, but it is just kind of a vicious cycle the entire time. And I at least have a very hard time actually getting out of there. And I don't know, have you used any kind of strategies already that helped you with that? Is it like, okay, maybe like a time schedule for you where it's saying like, okay, at 5 p.m. in the evening, it's just you without anything else or so?
I cut off my client work or anything else that I deem to be like productive or like cognitive function. Like I need my brain to actually focus on something when I have dinner. So up until dinner, I can work on anything. Once I have dinner, it's me time, and whatever I do is just for myself. So all the relaxing and winding down, like my night routine is just for myself. But yeah, I get exactly what you mean about putting so much pressure on yourself and not accomplishing anything. So what I do is that I make a list of things that I have to do without too much pressure, or like not a close deadline. And when I feel completely overwhelmed by what I'm doing, or I feel that I'm not going to be any more productive because I'm just like done with this subject, I move to the list and I pick something that looks more appealing at the moment. And that's been working okay so far, because it allows me to shift my focus from something that's quite overwhelming or just frustrating to something else that's still going to be productive because I have to get it done. So yeah, that's been massively helpful. It's not perfect, but I think you have to make peace with the fact that nothing's ever going to be perfect, and life is always going to try to disrupt you. Always, there's always going to be something going on, and if you try to if you just carry on with your life, you just realize that once you feel like you've got a good groove, you're going to get thrown something at you. Something is going to happen. It always does. So you just got to be prepared for anything. But yeah, that technique of the list of things I have to do to just change my focus to something else has been working so far. So that's something.
Yeah. So we are addressing obviously mostly coaches with this podcast. Of course, also athletes who are then applying certain things to themselves or who are aspiring coaches. But of course, it comes also then with the field itself. When you're self-employed, there is simply a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And I think that this will never change. However, I'm still having a hard time getting adjusted and acclimated to that feeling. And I have the feeling even that it's getting worse and worse the older I become. That it's like, okay, now you have kids, you have responsibilities for other people as well. You are growing older, and the new generation, you're the old lion in the in their herd, and there are now the younger generation actually trying to steal your place and position. It's not that severe, but you get what I mean, right? There's always kind of that pressure of like, okay, I have to do something because once again, I see the other people always accomplishing something and I don't, which is probably not the case, but still it feels like that. Harry, how about you? You've been doing that since such a long time already, especially offline. How did the last years go for you? Have you had those kind of thoughts as well? Have it gotten better over the time, or what is it that you've been doing so far?
I think being self-employed and the stress associated with that and that mindset of always feeling like you always feel like time not working is losing money. You know what I mean? Did you experience the same sort of thing? I almost feel like my life is, imagine there's a sink, and it's like when I'm not working and the sink is full of water, which is my income potential. And anytime I'm not working, the plug is removed. So I always feel like there's this underlying stress that time that could be money is draining. And then, and I find that it's been, the lockdown has been an interesting, like the last couple of years have been interesting because when I was like 20, so I'm 27 now, when I was like 20, I thought being self-employed was the absolute best thing. And that's because at the time I was able to be self-employed and then earn like comparable or more than like my peers at the time. And then as I've got older, I've realized that being self-employed, it's harder to earn more, especially when people start getting proper qualifications and they get like 5-6 years deep into their career and stuff like that. And then being self-employed feels a lot less attractive because you're like, so-and-so's got a car and he's earning loads of money, he's got healthcare, and you're like, oh, maybe I made the wrong decision. So that's always on my mind. But then I always remember that I have the more lifestyle flexibility than anyone else I know. And that's something that I'm really, really grateful for. I work full-time hours as a PT, but I do it in 3 days. How many other jobs would let you say, that Monday to Friday shit? No, I'm going to do all my work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'll see you next week. Like not many other jobs would let you do that. Yeah. So that's what I'm able to do. So that gives me 2 days where I do all the online stuff and the admin and stuff like that. But that also means that I have so much more time to what I did before recently, have so much more time to spend on like raising a dog, for example, because that's something I've always been inspired by. I've always loved the idea of having, like a crazy obedient pet that's like wants to do your every bidding. And I don't know how that's going to go, but I hope it goes well. But yeah, because I plan on putting hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into the training regime and stuff like that with the dog. And I've done all that stuff. But with regards to, like you said, like the kind of self-employed mindset, it's definitely something that I struggle with probably on a daily basis, or at least not daily, probably every like at least a few times a week. I have an internal debate around like the pros and cons of what I'm doing and how sustainable is it, and am I being irrational to constantly have this debate, or am I being rational and kind of mature about it? Because I don't have kids right now, But I have got like responsibilities, like obviously I've got a house, I've got a mortgage and stuff like that. And I do find myself, potentially might have kids at some point. So I'm always thinking of the future. And I think like, if I was to have children, what kind of is my lifestyle going to be conducive to raising a child in a way that they deserve? And I think sometimes it depends on the day. I'll be like, yeah, I am. And then on other days, I'm like, no, definitely not. And I think everyone probably feels that way all the time, even when they have kids. But yeah, so what I'm doing constantly, I guess, is I'm trying to balance ways of making the amount of money I need to make to have the lifestyle I want and to also have the future I want, balancing that with tweaking my lifestyle to like just small tweaks to make it more and more, I guess, rewarding in sense of like the work-life ratio, work-life balance. And I think, like I said, it depends on my mood. Some days I feel I've got it good. Other days I don't feel like I've got it so good. But the thing that's always on my mind is sustainability. And I think that's the same with yourself, Pascal, like, because I always want to keep offline personal training a part of my life because I really enjoy it. And I feel like I'm incredibly lucky to be, to have a career where I have social interaction with different people every single day. And I don't want to lose that, but I also am very aware that there aren't any, at least to my knowledge, many, if any, trainers who are around training people in their 40s or in their 50s. And there's a reason for that. Like, I see some accounts, I won't say who they are, but some accounts that are like personal training educator companies, like they qualify trainers, and they say things like, just because you don't see many 40, 50-year-old trainers doesn't mean they're not there. And then I feel like, well, if they're not there, where the fuck are they? Right? Because that's the kind of career choices they make. So yeah, so that's something that's always on my mind. Like, because you always see typically like the career choices for trainers are, you go into, well, at least recently, you go into online coaching and then you make a living from that, or you don't, or you struggle to make a living forever. Or you own a gym, or you become an influencer. It seems like there's not many options, or you become a TV personality. And it's like, obviously there's like 2 celebrity trainer vacancies probably every 5 years. So that's not a realistic career path to aim for as a personal trainer. And then it's like owning a gym. That's not training people. So is that the right career path to aim for? And then it's like, well, okay, I like training people. How do I keep training people in a way that's more sustainable? And I think the only way that that's going to be sustainable is, like we spoke about a few coaching corners ago, is the only way that's ever going to be sustainable is if you have a large online component to your lifestyle, because it's the only thing that allows you to keep providing value in a way that allows you to still be like a father or a husband or whatever that is. So I guess that's what I keep reminding myself, that like, as long as I'm making like X amount each month, then things are good. I'm future-proofing and I'm creating income for now. And I'm fortunate. I think all 3 of us are quite financially savvy, or at least responsible. So like, and every time I get stressed or overwhelmed, thinking that like, oh my God, my future's uncertain, I have a mortgage, blah, 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 I kind of remind myself that no, I have saved up different portions of income for different things. And that, like, I probably owe too much information, but like, I make sure I have money allocated to pay my bills for like 2 years, and then I have money allocated to pay like anything else for a couple of years, and have it all bucketed off in different places. So that for me has helped massively with my stress, because sometimes you feel like, how am I going to keep doing this? And then I remind myself that even if I stop doing this, I wouldn't have to do it again for 3 or 4 years based on the things I've done, the responsible things I've done in the 10 years previously, if that makes sense. Yeah. But anyway,
it's
ironic, I think you guys have done similar things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to touch on that because it's ironic though. Just like 2 or 3 days ago, I had another time the discussion with Katie about it. And that topic comes up a lot of times because of my concerns about the future and stuff. And it's like you said, Eric, we don't, of course, need to talk about the amounts that we are making. I think it's inappropriate to talk about that. It's also irrelevant because it always then depends on what someone wants to earn and how much time and effort they want to commit to something. And that is probably also then what they get out of it, right? But for me personally, right now, I'm in a financially stable position, but I always feel like I'm not making enough, right? And you're climbing up the ladder, you're making more and more, and still you don't feel like you make enough. Even though when you reflect back on what you've made, like, let's go even that far back, like 5 years, 6 years ago, right? When I was still employed, I'm making more, right? once again, it's inappropriate to say how much more, but I'm making more. I'm making a decent living, and still, it feels like more unsatisfying now than back then when I was employed, and I made much less. It's weird. It's once again, there's such a big irony in that I'm more concerned now about money than I was back then when I made much less. Right? And perhaps it has something to do with the uncertainty that is always chasing you when you're self-employed. Or maybe you're just losing the sense of reality and the connection and the relationship with what money is. Or so, right? I don't know. It's just there's an irony in that, and I yet have to figure out why that is the case for me. And Katie even said it, like, why are you concerned? And she grew up in a much safer environment. So her parents, they were financially very stable, and she grew up never having any kind of issues in the family when it comes to money. Whereas I grew up where my mom and my stepfather, we never had enough money, right? It was always like I couldn't even participate sometimes in traveling with the class and need to stay at home because I couldn't afford it.
Exactly.
The first flight was to England when I was 18 years old, and I got that money from the state because I was already a student, 18, wasn't living at home anymore, and I was just like getting support from the state, and that was the first money I received, and that was the first time I was able to afford actually leaving the country. It's crazy, right? And because of that, possibly there's also just like a fear that is haunting me all the time.
Scarcity mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that you're basically chasing something and you will never be satisfied. And I think that at some point, maybe you have to even step back a little bit to realize that you're still happy. You are maybe even happier when you work less and even earn a little bit less. Right? But I yet have to figure that out for myself. I don't know, Jess, how is it for you at the moment? And where did you come from, and how did it evolve for you over the past couple of weeks and months now?
Yeah, I was going to say I can relate to that a lot. I think it comes from our upbringing. I didn't grow up with a lot of money either. So I think that, scarcity mindset is always there, and it's always the uncertainty factor that scares the fuck out of me. And knowing that my family still doesn't have a lot of money. So if it goes wrong for me, I literally have like pretty much nothing to turn to. Like it's just everything's on me. So that's the pressure that I have. And I'm very, very fortunate to be able to live with my grandparents for now. But I know that that's the only safety net that I have. And I don't want to be having that safety net forever. Like I want to be able to have my own place and be like, okay, if everything goes wrong, I own this thing. So getting financially literate. I've struggled today. Thank you. Was a big part of my mental growth these past couple of months, maybe a little bit more, getting into, you don't learn that in school. They don't teach you about, investing your money wisely, because they teach you like, hey, have this in savings, but what you make, like what you save on your bank account, just because of inflation, like it's worth fucking nothing 10 years later. So that's not a good investment strategy. But I've learned that last year, which is crazy because I just turned 30. So that's like I've started working when I was 18. That's like 12 years where I could have actually invested money more smartly, and I didn't.
Never go down that route though. Like I could have done that because when I think about it really makes me sick to my stomach if I really think about it. Like, all right, what if I had just invested when I started making some money? The first money I earned was at the age of 13.
Same.
And I could have. I mean, if you had known it better, and I think nowadays with the once again the internet, I think many younger individuals are actually then dabbling into something like investing and stuff, right? With the right resources. And that is, I think it can help them for living a very good life.
My school friends left school at 15. I used to walk to school with him, and it was because he was incredibly techy. He used to build websites as a young child, and he started investing his money from when he was first earning it at 13, because he used to tell me the stuff he was doing. Yeah, and he left school at 15 to move to the US to set up a tech startup. And how ridiculous is that? And he's doing incredibly well from what I've seen. Yeah. And he told me what he was doing at the time, but my young brain just did not understand. Just didn't understand. But yeah,
you still played Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering and Warhammer 40k and all that kind of jazz, right?
Yeah,
that's not even into puberty, and still he's already building businesses and stuff.
If I got given $1,000 at 13, I would have done exactly what he said. I would have bought video games, Pokemon cards, and stuff like that. Whereas this guy was well clued up, like self-taught from his own high IQ. Yeah. Was like, why spend £1,000 now when I can invest £1,000 and it become 100 grand in 10 years or whatever? Yeah.
Once again, never go back or never go down that route. But go ahead and continue, please.
Yeah, sorry, Jess.
No, it's okay. It's a really interesting point, because I think everybody's like that. Pretty poor upbringing. So now I try to make smart choices with my money. Granted that I am just taking care of myself, so that's a huge plus. It's just me, so I get to do whatever I want with it. But investing money has been the smartest decision I've made for my mental peace when it comes to that, and having a safety net, just knowing that I have something that I can rely on if anything goes bad. You're always chasing, I could be doing more. I need to develop more marketing and business things, and so I can actually make a better living than I am now. But when I get too anxious about those things, when I think too much, and it just it turns into a really deep rabbit hole, I usually turn to gratitude, and I look back to where I was even just 2 years ago when I started with you guys, and I was just an intern and I had just 5 clients, and then I built more and more, and I'm like, oh, and I also, I continue my education, so I get more educated throughout the journey. So turning to gratitude and looking back and be like, hey, I have so much to be grateful for. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I'm on prep, but I am putting this on myself. I choose to do this. I'm not starving. I have a roof over my head. My family is healthy as well. So whenever I get too overwhelmed, I try to turn to gratitude, because I am way, way, way better off than when I was maybe 5 years ago. So it's a massive positive thing, because I did shitty jobs my entire 20s, living paycheck to paycheck, didn't save anything, just traveled. I traveled a lot, which was great. So I got to experience a lot of things. And I try to remember hey, I speak 2 languages. I am fortunate to do a job that I absolutely love. I get to educate myself more and more, and I get to live through my passion. And those are really positive things. So it's there's always a light. There's always a positive thing.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
And I know Harry wants to say something, but keep that thought just for a second. And it's so funny, because looking back, when I grew up and I was in my early 20s and I was doing those shitty jobs and I wasn't having a lot of money, I was still happy. I was still living a good life. Sure, there were moments where I wished that I had XYZ or could do XYZ, but right now it's the other way around, where I'm just thinking, I wish I had more time, for example. Right? So you're basically always exchanging something for something else. And even if worst case scenario comes to fruition, in a financial sense, and you fall back to having nothing, I think that you can still get up and you're still a happy human being most of the time, right? So, at least you've managed it once, and you can probably do it again, unless you're now 70. And I think that then things become a little bit more challenging. But this is where we aren't at right now. Yes, I'm turning 34 this year, so I'm getting closer and closer to that point. But
not even halfway.
Yeah. Ari, what did you want to say?
Jess said something that spurred off some thoughts in my mind. So you use gratitude to kind of ground yourself and remind yourself how good you have it now relative to where you've been in the past. And I do something similar, but I really like the kind of nihilist theologies, but not in a negative way. So for me, like my wallpaper is a nebula, like space. And what I love about the wallpaper is that our solar system occupies less than 1 pixel of the entire image. I know it's a fabricated image, but I've got a 4K monitor. So that for me reminds me that, like, why am I worrying? Why am I being stressed when I am not in a negative way, in a completely neutral, indifferent way? I am so unimportant and so irrelevant. And when I have this conversation with Hannah, it's interesting because she thinks it's so depressing. And my mum says the same. She's like, does that not depress you? And I say, no, it inspires me, because it reminds me to not get so caught up in my own head, because I don't fucking matter. I can't even, all my problems in my entire life are not even visible in this image. And for me, that's
Harry,
what I like about it. Yeah.
Have you spied on Jess and my conversation we just had like 2 days ago?
No.
I was going to mention that.
Because Jess was posting something and I was basically commenting on the post, basically exactly the same way such as you just described.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really matter. We are a blip in an ocean.
Not even a blip for me.
We don't even have any kind of true impact to really matter, right? The only thing that matters is what we do for ourselves, basically, and the people that are around us in that given moment. Sure, that there are some people who have a long-lasting impact on humanity, but even in the sense of like the entire universe, humanity is nothing really. So we come and go, right? And that can be quite daunting, but it can also be quite freeing, because once you realize that actually what it is that you do doesn't really matter, other than you living a happy life and also making the most out of it for you and the other people around you, right? Then that's basically it. Because in 100 years from now, probably no one even will remember you at all. Yep. And that can be either, once again, bring you down massively because it's so depressing, because then you can be like, okay, nothing really matters, or nothing really matters, and that's why you can go out and do kind of whatever the fuck you want to do, unless you're killing yourself, because then the life is immediately over for you anyway.
I say something funny to clients sometimes, like when they ask me a question, like particularly in-person clients, they might say something like, oh, like, I'm going out this weekend, like, what do you think I should do? What option should I eat and stuff? And then I will jokingly say, like, we're all hurtling towards oblivion, so it doesn't matter anyway. Like, and then they're like, why are you always saying stuff like that? I'm like, because it's true. Like, so what if you disrupt your fat loss for a week? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, let's just get on with it.
In the beginning, though, when Tony was born, I was thinking about it quite often, and I was just like, what's even the point then? And it was really bringing me down for a couple of days, up until the point where I then thought, like, okay, I could even turn it around and be like, actually, it's quite freeing, because when nothing really matters, then I can do what I want, and the outcome will still be the same.
Yeah, I find it quite soothing. My general rules are: be good to others, be present, to just enjoy life, but it's gonna go by so quick. So yeah, it's be good, do good, but in the end, you don't matter that much.
No. And again, the outcome will always be the same, whether you've now decided to actually do X, Y, Z or not. And I mean, that's why nothing is really that bad, because it all leads to the same destination.
And I read a really, really good book that was, I think it was called The Precipice. It was recommended by Catherine Gray, if you know who she is, on Instagram. But yeah, she's messaged me because I was talking about nihilism and stuff like that on my Instagram. This was ages ago. It's called The Precipice, and it's a risk like head of risk assessment or analysis or something of some fancy university wrote a book about like things that the percentage, what's most likely to annihilate the human race, and he's ranked all of these things based on an analysis and a percentage chance of their likelihood to happen, using the same kind of risk analysis that you'd use to say calculate if a bridge would collapse or something like that. And it was really interesting because it was terrifying, but it was also really interesting at the same time, and that helped ground me a lot. How like we're something like 30 million years overdue an extinction event meteorite strike, and then stuff like that. And then for about 2 days, it made me feel incredibly anxious because I was like, what if it happens now? Like, but then I thought, if it happens now, then what's the point in being stressed? Like, yeah, stuff like that. And it was a really interesting book because you learn like the likelihood of different things completely annihilating the human race, annihilation being defined by like 60% human destruction, something like that. And it sounds really morbid, but it was really interesting.
Yeah, I think we could philosophize over this for like ages. Yeah, like honestly, I want to sum everything up. So at first we've talked a little bit about disruption, and also then I know that you don't like the term, but stress. And I want to kind of summarize it and give the listeners a little bit of maybe some takeaways, right? So when it comes to the disruption and also stress in your life, that doesn't necessarily have to be bad or so, but most of the time we have to realize that we need to organize things, schedule things for ourselves, and probably prioritize where then something may have to give. It may be something luxurious for you at the moment, such as playing video games or Netflix at the end of the day with your wife or so, right? But most of the time it is then your decision, such as Jess also alluded to earlier when it comes to the contest prep. And no one is forcing you to do these things. You're basically forcing yourself to do them. And if you don't want to do it, or if you feel overwhelmed, or you feel like it isn't fruitful or so, it's not worth the effort, then maybe just focusing on one or two things is the way to go. But having a plan, having a schedule may be very helpful for you to structure your entire day and actually get somewhere with something so that you're not just spinning your wheels. And furthermore, when it then comes to the financial aspect, it sounded to me that having somewhat of a diversification may be very, very valuable, so that you may not get to the point where you're so reliant on just one income stream and being just the personal trainer who may be obsolete at some point because either he's growing older or for whatever reason, right? So building something besides what it is that you have right now is also very, very recommended at the same time. And then last but not least, we then get to the philosophical part where in the end, no matter what it is that you're doing, it doesn't really matter because the outcome will always be the same. At some point, you will be dying. And in 100 years from now, probably no one is going to remember that Harry, the online coach, somewhere in London, was actually giving personal trainer classes to someone else, right? So in the end, it can be quite freeing, but have a plan, have a schedule for the time that you're here so that you're actually having and living a good life and not just a miserable life because you are thinking that you need to do the things just for the sake of doing them or so. So that a reasonable summarization.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would just want to add, prioritize mental health when you feel overwhelmed, and nothing is ever worth putting your mental health down, like nothing. And that's really, really important, I think, to make a point about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would add something just what Jess said, because you have like your kind of minimum productivity tasks you need to do each day, something like that you mentioned. I do exactly the same. I've got a Trello board with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I have just the minimum amount of tasks I need to do each day listed each day. So every day I open it and I know that these are the things that need to be done. Anything else is extra. And that's helped me massively with managing up my stress levels and feeling like I'm not productive and stuff like that. So I think that's worth adding. Yeah.
Amazing. And guys, thank you very much again for coming on and having that discussion with me. And where can people find you? It's of course over on Instagram. It's basically just Instagram because no one is using Facebook anymore. I'm on TikTok. Right?
I've posted twice.
Oh, yeah, really. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're still in your 20s. Jess and I, 30s. right?
Yeah,
We're all
TikTok,
down.
go to create the account and it says you're too old, and when you're trying to do it, like, no, yeah.
So can you quick give your Instagram handle so that the people have heard it?
I'll go first then. What is it? Trainer Harry _S. There we go. I don't even know. I'm too old.
Yeah. What about you, Jess?
Jess Dalglish on Instagram.
How do you say your name? I've always wondered how to say the second name.
No one can pronounce it. Dalglish.
Dalglish. Is it Scottish?
It is.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it doesn't sound very French.
It's not my actual name.
Okay.
My actual name is Terrier, which is full on French.
Yeah.
But I've never used my actual name on Instagram because I was so scared that my dad would find pictures of my ass that
Fair enough. Yeah.
So before we end the show, that always makes me then wonder about all of the female influencers nowadays.
The OnlyFans.
Yeah, and when they are now getting kids, what the internet never forgets. What now in 10 to 20 years when the kid grows up, is it then that they look at the pictures and be like, yeah, look at my mom, super proud of her, when it's like you see basically everything.
I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with females showing their bodies because I'm the first one to do it. It's just that my mom follows me on Instagram. My sister follows me on Instagram. Like they all see the pictures that I post, and most of them are just artistic ones. And even if it's not, like it's my body, my choice, and I'm very happy with what I post. But when it comes to my dad, I know it would make him like enraged, and he would not understand, and I just don't want to have to go through that. So yeah,
I'm cool with it. Not that it matters, but yeah, I think pro-choice, but also like if you can provide a fucking awesome lifestyle for your kid doing stuff like that, do it, like, by all means.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just like very reflective on it, and I'm not even a female, and I'm already like, I don't know how I feel about that my kids can basically look me up online at some point and just get to know me from a very, very different angle that I may not feel
in the future
absolutely comfortable with. Because the beauty about also having a mobile phone now is just recording everything and seeing your kids grow older. They can basically see every kind of step of their life, which we never had. We have a couple of pictures, right? But we have so many videos just from the kids, like each and every single day, a video or some kind of pictures. And the same goes though for that they can find us as well. Whereas like, I don't know, because not all of the things that I did when I was in my 20s are things that I'm proud of. And they could basically find all of those things, right? So after 20 years, it's not, I mean, your entire perception changes a little bit. And that is something like, I don't know how I then feel when I want to be a role model and don't want my kids to go through the same things that I did in the past. But we will see how the next generation actually deals with that.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you very much once again for coming on. And I guess I speak to you guys next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging
We're gonna have documentaries,
our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
the exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy. We're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.